A very good evening to all the audience who have joined. I understand Taxmann has a huge following, and then this will be streamed through Omni channel. So, a very good afternoon, evening from wheresoever you people are accessing for the webinar. And the topic today, we have a very simple topic which we started with called as principles of forensic accounting. Now, we have chosen the topic principles for forensic accounting because this being the first of the several sessions which we will be taking, we will start with the basics of the forensic accounting, and we will understand how this is used and how this can be a emerging practice area. I do have a presentation. I'll share my screen and show the presentation, and then we can start discussing. As told, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. If it is relevant to the context which I am discussing, I'll try to answer them simultaneously during my discussion. Otherwise, we can take the question and answers at the end. I hope my presentation is visible to all of you. So let us quickly check the agenda for the presentation today. We'll start with introduction and fundamental principles of forensic accounting. We'll be discussing the definition, scope, and uniqueness. That is what makes this different, what makes it unique, and what makes it novel from the conventional accounting and auditing. We'll be understanding very briefly, we'll be understanding financial statement fraud because there are workshops of multiple days conducted to understand financial statement fraud. We have some very complex and detailed cases along with exhibits and contents to discuss financial statement fraud. However, we'll be very briefly touching on financial statement fraud, considering the time duration of the session. Then we'll understand certain common types of fraud and financial crime which happens in this domain, detection techniques and prevention strategies as to how to detect and prevent the fraud. Next, we'll be having as to how forensic accounting is a part of litigation support and how accountants are called in court of law to support the law enforcement framework to help advocates, to help judges, and to help law enforcement officers. Last but not the least, we have a case study, couple of slides, few slides, not couple, few slides of case study where we are discussing a case and how the importance of forensic accounting came out in that case, and we'll be learning from that case study. This is the agenda for today. Let us move ahead. So, first of all, we need to understand the meaning of the word forensic accounting. The actual, the Latin meaning, the dictionary meaning of the word forensic. The word forensic has come from the Latin word forensis, meaning forum. That is the purpose in any investigative assignment, in any forensic engagement is to discover evidence, to find evidence which is acceptable by a forum, by adjudicating authority, by a competent court. Okay. Now, typically, we have three sets which come in the forensic account. The first is usage of accounting skills to investigate a financial crime. This involves pure accounting skills, that is our debits and credits, journals and ledger, unraveling that mystery, finding that money trail, looking at that missing amount. This portion is covered in this accounting skills. So usage of accounting skills to investigate the financial crime. Next comes prevention. So the first one was detection. The next comes prevention. Prevention is implementation of robust framework. Of course, along with training, whistleblower, we do have the prevention framework, which we have discussed at the end. And third is the paralegal activity, which helps in effective delivery of justice. Because most of the financial crime cases involve, I mean, not most, all the financial crime cases involve money, there needs a independent professional who shall be certifying the amount, who shall be finding the amount and then certifying, to help the courts to assess what is the amount and what is the quantity of the dispute. So, in the forensic accounting domain, we have fraud detection as one part, fraud prevention as second part, and the litigation support, that is probably an extension of fraud detection, as the third part. Now, let us come to the meaning of the word forensic accounting. As I said, the purpose in forensic accounting is to find and discover evidences which can be presented in court of law. So, in order to do this, simple knowledge of accounting is not sufficient. So, we have to have a cross-functional knowledge of accounting, auditing, investigation, law, data analysis, and cyber security. All these skills, probably there are more: linguistics, people skills, effective communication, good command over English. All these skills are essential in order to do a forensic engagement. These skills will help the professional to investigate a case. Now, the dictionary definition, we have taken the definition from the forensic accounting and investigating standards. I hope the audience here is aware that there is a set of forensic accounting and investigation standards issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which is mandatory for any chartered accountant who is certifying a forensic investigation report after 1st of July 2023. So it's almost a year since we are in after the applicability of the forensic standards. Now, those standards, there are 20 standards and 3 overarching document. In the overarching document, definition of forensic accounting is given. So the definition says that forensic accounting is gathering and evaluation of evidence by a professional to interpret and report the findings before a competent authority. As we discussed, forensic is discovery of evidences. So in case of forensic accounting, the professional word used in the standard is professional, because the applicability of standard, though it is mandatory for chartered accountants, it can be used as guidance for all types of professional, be it chartered accountants or be it non-chartered accountants. So it is used by professional. These standards are used by professional. Forensic accounting is the discipline which requires gathering of facts and evidences, verification of financial transactions, and operational arrangement. So please understand, it is financial transaction, that is the books of accounts, the numbers, and the operational arrangement. Right? What do we mean by operational arrangement? Say some order is given to a vendor. Say there is a stock. Say there is an insurance claim which does not involve the books of account. Those will come in operational arrangement. Next is to report the findings. The word not opinion has been emphasized here, as it is in many places throughout the presentation, because we have to understand that the standards are very clear and the forensic engagement is very clear that it's not expression of opinion. The forensic engagement is a statement of fact. The professional has to find the fact and then he has to present that fact in the court of law, wherein this report will help and support the litigation. So, this is the definition of forensic accounting as per the forensic accounting and investigation standards. Let us move ahead. Now, what is the role of professional? As I said earlier, the professional will be having 3 major roles. The standards issued by ICAI also classify the engagement in 3 parts. First is forensic accounting, second is investigation, and third is litigation support. If we read FAIS 100 and FAIS 200, 100 series and 200 series, in that 110 and 210, if we read, it's very clear, and there is a distinction given between what is forensic accounting, what is investigation, and what is litigation support. A quick, information which I would like to share with all our participants, that the standards, they explicitly say that the word forensic audit should not be used in the forensic engagement. The reason why the word forensic audit is not used and forensic accounting is promoted and advised to be used in forensic engagement is because globally the practice is called as forensic accounting. It's only in India that the word forensic audit has gained popularity with a lot of banks and with a lot of law enforcement agencies. Otherwise, globally the practice is called as forensic accounting, dispute resolution, integrity, so on and so forth. This is the name. Again, if we understand, accounting includes audit. So accounting is a broader term, it's a bigger term, and it includes audit. That is why the word forensic accounting is used and not forensic audit. Also, the user should not be confused between regular audits and forensic audits. That is why the word forensic audit is not used and should be refrained from using. So the role of forensic professional, what does forensic professional does? He has three mandates. The professional has, rather he has three scope for the work. One is forensic accounting, usage of accounting skills. Next is investigation, that is investigating the affairs. This is done in operational matters. The first one is done in financial matters, the second one is done in operational matters, and the third one stems out of any litigation which is there, which is litigation support. Okay. The standards also give examples of these type of transaction. Say for an example, for litigation support, I can give you one example which immediately comes to my mind. As to, we are in several cases, we are appointed, we are appointed by uh, we are appointed by arbitrators, we are appointed by advocates in order to assist them to get the numbers correct, to get the amounts correct, to get the figures correct. That is by and large litigation support. But please understand, this is all a social science. So we don't have these clear cut demarcation and silos as to this exactly is forensic accounting, this exactly is investigation. By and large, we do have these demarcation, but these services are fluid and they definitely flow from one place to another. So there are a little bit of common elements between forensic accounting, investigation, and litigation support. The next role which is expected from a forensic professional is the report writing. Report writing report writing is an art in itself. We have covered little bit on report writing, but again, report writing itself is the topic which has to be dealt and which takes probably not less than half a day, as the art of drafting and writing a forensic report. Because this being a litigation based engagement, please understand, it is very important not just to know what is to be written, but also to know what should not be written or what the professional should refrain himself on commenting. Okay. Because this is not an opinion, it is a statement of fact. So the investigator should strongly stop himself on opining or letting his personal biases determining the outcome of the investigation. The last step in a forensic engagement or a role of forensic professional is the testification. So testifying is a major role and an occupational hazard of a forensic practice. Now, what do we mean by this? We mean that the professional in most of the cases has to testify in court of law. He has to defend his report. He has to explain this report to the court to the defense counsel. uh, I mean, considering he's representing the prosecution, he has to explain the defense counsel and he has to defend his report. He has to explain his report. So that testification is an integral part of the engagement which professionals should consider before they accept the engagement. Okay, let us move next to the next slide. Now, a very simple and crucial question that comes in the mind of most of the seasoned practitioners, that is, those who have practiced for more than 10 years, is what is different? What is different in forensic and what is conventional? So, we have been doing certain special audit engagement. I mean, the seniors say that they have been doing certain special audit engagement, certain investigative assignment. How is forensic different from that? So, let me explain few points which will help and guide to the professional so that they can determine whether the engagement falls in the definition of forensics or not. So this is a non-conventional engagement. It's not recurring like auditing practice. This will never be the case that every year you are called for a forensic engagement. So it's a non-routine, non-recurring engagement. It's always on call. In fact, my experience for past 7 8 years, so I've been practicing since 15, but my experience for past 7 8 years, where past 8 years or 10, for the 8 years or 10 years, we have been exclusively doing this. So in the past 8 10 years, I have noticed that most of the engagement appointments are done in panic. So the first reaction that the owner does after discovering a fraud is appointment of a forensic professional. So it is by and large on call. It's a non-routine activity. Yeah, we do have something in fraud prevention domain called as fraud risk assessment. This fraud risk assessment is a routine activity and this happens in a recurring way. So the ACFE recommends that fraud risk assessment should be done biannually. It should be done biannually, that is alternate years. Okay. So the difference we were discussing, it's a non-routine, non-recurring activity. There is no mandate. Still in India, the forensic practice is not governed or the investigative engagements are not governed by any law, time being in force. Yes, certain special acts do have certain special provisions like the transaction audit that is there in the insolvency bankruptcy code, the special audit there in the income tax act, the special audit in the GST act and all other acts. But there is no single law which regulates, explains and governs the forensic engagement domain. So, by and large, the only authoritative document in India that we have is the standards issued by the ICAI. Of course, there are some guidelines, some master circulars issued by Reserve Bank of India. There are some directions issued by Indian Bank Association, but I don't know how many of them have a regulatory backing. Anything issued by Reserve Bank of India is binding, but I don't know how strongly the recommendations of Indian Bank Association is to be adhered to under law that is subject to testing. The next is the forensic profession. In forensic engagement, opinions are not to be given. So the entire report is a statement of fact. The entire report is a statement of fact where no opinion is given. Okay, where no opinion is given. So here it is only fact, whereas in our conventional audit, opinion is to be given. Next, whereas the financial audit, you are required to give true and fair view. In a forensic engagement, the professional is expected to be adversarial. What do we mean by adversarial? affixing blame. So a forensic engagement may involve affixing blame on someone, that someone has done it, or finding the evidences, discovering the evidences which specify that this person may be involved in the illicit activity. Next is the nature of burden of proof. As I understand, chartered accountants being the largest community which may be attending this webinar, as chartered accountants or as audit professionals, our understanding of evidence is very different when we look at the forensic practice. In case of forensic engagement, and wheresoever the professional wants to classify the case as fraud, the burden of proof is very onerous. Please understand, we are used to practicing in civil laws, and the income tax and the revenue laws wherein we practice, they are civil laws. So there we have something called as preponderance of justice. That is, the probability of occurring is more than the probability of not occurring. Then the quality of evidence becomes good even. Uh, becomes good. Whereas in case of criminal law, which is invoked based on the outcome of the report. In case of criminal law, the quality of evidence is beyond reasonable doubt. So this becomes a very onerous, the evidence becomes very crucial, and it's a very onerous exercise. Next, the concept of sampling is not there in forensic engagement. Now, when I say the concept of sampling is not there, that means that whether there cannot be any sampling. So technically there should not be sampling, but practically there are ways and means how sampling is done. It may be for a particular department, for a particular set of transactions, for a particular period, for a particular product, wheresoever the doubt lies. So this is called a sampling. I mean, we call that smart sampling. So smart sampling is permitted, but not random sampling as we do in case of audit transactions. So the concept of sampling is not there, because say if only 5% of the transactions are infected and then you draw a sample of 10%, the probability of getting a infected, statistical probability of getting a infection in the sample becomes 0.5% only. So that is why sampling is not done. And then testifying before the authority. Nowhere in the audit report you are called to defend your report. But in case of a forensic engagement, you are expected to you are expected to testify before the authority. Okay. Now, there are certain ethical concerns. Now, when we say ethical concerns, being chartered accountants and being professionals in the audit, we, unlike the lawyers, they have the concept of privilege, where they are not supposed to disclose anything which they hear from the client. This concept of privilege is not available to the forensic professional. So there are some ethical dilemmas. The professional has to understand what is confidentiality and what is unreasonableness, or what is something which has to be reported. And the new laws that are being applicable, like the one which we had, the 3rd May notification by the PMLA Authority, Ministry of Finance, where chartered accountants are covered, the professionals, finance professionals are covered as uh, reporting entities under PMLA. So there, the duty of the professional significantly increases. So independence, integrity, objectivity, these are the hallmark of the professional. These are the quality that the professional has to possess. Due professional care, skill, and competence. This is again a very important point. These are given in the basic principles of the forensic standards. Now, when we say due professional care, the professional is supposed to take due care of the engagement, and he has to accept the engagement only if he or she has to accept the engagement only if he or she possesses adequate skill, competence, and resources. Otherwise, one has to say no to the engagement. Confidentiality in any case is crucial for all types of engagement. In a in a engagement like this, the confidentiality becomes altogether more important. Also, please understand, in a lot of forensic engagement, you are required to work with law enforcement authority. And when you work with law enforcement authority, you are privy to a lot of information which is not available in public domain. So the onus of confidentiality becomes more and more. The entire purpose of the forensic engagement is to find truth, is to seek the truth. So constantly one has to find the truth, and the supremacy of truth, primacy of truth has to come out in the report. We also have a concept in law, audi altrum partem, whereby an opportunity to the other person to be heard should be given. So, a forensic professional is expected to give ample opportunity to the person whom he or she is investigating to present their side of the view. Of course, it's not mandatory that they will always come up with their side of the story, but it is a requirement that the professional should volunteer, should ask them several times as to what is their opinion. Last and most crucial point, facts and only facts, no opinion. So, while drafting the report, also, while doing the investigation, also, personal biases, personal opinions, all these things have to be separated by the professional when such engagements are undertaken. Now, let us discuss few types of frauds. The biggest amongst this is the financial statement fraud. So, when we discuss, I'm not discussing the fraud triangle or the fraud tree as given by the ACFE because that would take a lot of time. But if we try to categorize the types of fraud, we can categorize them in three broad types as given in the fraud tree. The first type comes as asset misappropriation. Now, what do we mean by asset misappropriation? Asset misappropriation is a terminology where frauds, where the abuse of the organization's resources has been done, are reported and classified in the asset misappropriation part. Frauds where we have abuse of the organization's asset, that comes in the asset misappropriation part. Next, we have financial statement frauds. Now, what do we mean by financial statement fraud? Financial statement fraud simply means where the balance sheet or the financial statement is manipulated. Those frauds, that is window dressed, evergreening, all these come in financial statement fraud. The that we third type of fraud that we have is called as bribery and corruption. Under bribery and corruption, we have illegal gratitude, we have conflict of interest, we have kickbacks, we have economic extortion, so on and so forth. These are the types of fraud, the categorization of frauds. So larceny, that is larcening of money, stealing of inventory, pilferage of bank account, all these will fall in the definition of asset misappropriation. Financial statement fraud, when we talk, increasing the sales, inflating the sales, reducing the profit, inflating the expenses, increasing the market valuation, increasing the book value of the equity, all these will come in financial statement fraud. We are not classifying the front running or the stock manipulation. Those, they depend, they can fall in either of the categories. Okay, financial statement also, asset misappropriation also, bribery also. I mean, these things tend to overlap. And the third one is bribery and corruption. As I told, conflict of interest, kickback, economic extortion, these forms in bribery and corruption. So I have put an example of financial statement fraud. Now, What do we understand by financial statement fraud? I wanted to discuss to give you a flavor of what is financial statement fraud. Whosoever is practicing or whosoever is working, whosoever is employed in the finance domain for probably 5, 7 years, say 10 years, the books speak with the professional. In my investigation, I have noticed that the moment we see the paper, we start with FIR because we do most of the cases for law enforcement agencies. But the moment we start, we will look at the complaint, we look at the allegation, we have a feeling, of course, that may fall in biasness, but we have a feeling, we have a gut feeling as to what must have gone wrong. Now, this is happening to me because I am working in this domain since past 10 years. That is why. But what I mean to say is that with experience, the books start talking to the professional. Then there are certain, scientifically, there are certain behavioral red flags, there are certain financial red flags. So, what do we mean by behavioral red flags and what do we mean by financial red flags? The behavioral red flags means change in behavior or alteration in the behavior of the employee or in the customer, something like living beyond means. What do we mean by living beyond means? An employee who's, say, earning only 25,000 Indian rupees is maintaining a car. Now, it's not possible to maintain a car by earning 25,000 Indian rupees. So this is a behavioral red flags. Then we have certain financial indicators or financial red flags. Red flags again means an anomaly. It means something wrong may be there. It doesn't mean fraud. Okay. So what is a financial red flag? Financial red flag is constant building up of inventory or constant write-off of debtors. That is increasing trend in write-off of debtors or increasing trend in build-up of inventory. That is called as an indicator which is financial in nature. Then we have techniques, tools and techniques to find the fraud. Those tools and techniques may be financial or non-financial. I have listed the tools and techniques in the next slide, which we will be discussing. So financial technique are used to analyze the financial record, to analyze the banking data, to analyze the uh, balance sheet, P&L, ledger, journals. Non-financial techniques may be used to analyze the unstructured data, that is the email records, that is the chat, that is the tweets, and other things of the company. Let us move ahead. These are certain detection techniques which I have listed on the screen. So the most common technique in detection is the data analysis. This is inevitable and we have to do this data analysis for most of the cases. In the data analysis portion also, the most simple, however, most effective technique is the ratios. Ratios don't lie. If the ratios are plotted over a period of, say, if the ratios are plotted over a period of, say, 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, then these ratios never lie. The ratios will give a true and correct perspective. Next, we have trends. So trends are very important. Trend has to be contextual with reference to the case. Like I'll tell you, the other day, we were investigating a case where significant amount of money has been sent outside the country. This is the case we got from our economic offense wing of the state, wherein the allegation is for betting. That is, money has gone out of the country. So, and then there are allegations of betting. So we have got around 100 account where the money has flown from here to there, from there to there. Okay. In such a case, a very simple trend that we proposed and then we plotted and we gave it, that there were certain accounts which were used to collect the money for the betting. Now, if we plot a trend that is on the day of the match, whichsoever match was the reference point for the betting, on the day of the match, the deposits becomes significant. So we plotted a graph where we we superimposed it the cash deposit or the bank deposit in one particular account with reference to the date on which the match has taken place. So that gave a clear indication that yes, this account indeed was used for the betting, and this is the source account where all the money is pooled. So this is example of a simple trend. Then we have certain specialized ratio, the Benford ratio and the Benish model. So these are Altman Z score, Benford score, Benish score. These are certain statistical models. These are weighted average of certain items in the balance sheet, and they give a score. So something is the Benish model, sorry, the Altman Z score is days to default. The Benford model is the first digit test. The Benish model is applicable for service sector companies as well. These have their own specialized advantages and disadvantages. Okay, that is beyond our, the depth is beyond our discussion today. Then we have digital forensics. Now, what do we understand by digital forensics? See, now the days have gone where audit was around the computer. Now, in every investigation, computer is either a target or a tool. So if it is a target, you have to you have to recover data. If it is a tool, you have to again recover data. That is where the metadata analysis, the email analysis, the other log analysis, that comes into play. So you have to be the forensic professional, whosoever is doing, he has to understand a, a fair bit of how data image should be taken, how data should be collected, how the integrity should be maintained, how hash value should be preserved, and how section 65B certificate should be given because one has extracted the data. Next comes our transaction analysis, which the finance professionals are pretty well versed with. The transaction analysis is suspicious transaction, round tripping, journal analysis. These come in the transaction analysis. Next, we have behavioral analysis. Now, this behavioral analysis is learning and understanding the lifestyle of the employee, the lifestyle of the vendors, the risk perception of the vendors, the way vendors do the business. All these things are understood by doing a behavioral analysis. Next comes document examination. There is a different discipline in forensics called as question document, which is invoice verification. So a test and checking has to be done whether the invoice is correct, whether the invoice is authentic, contract verification, whether the adherence to the contract has been done. As we speak, we are doing an engagement for a client wherein we are checking the contractual terms between the principal and the contractor, as they have entered into a agreement where the terms of the contract dictate a certain payment. That we are testing, that we are doing. Okay. Then signature verification. Of course, we are no experts on signature verification. So for whatever domain the professional does not has the expert, he has to use the work of an expert, and then opinion has to be sought. No detection is complete without usage of the tools and technique of this era, that is the artificial intelligence and the machine learning. So predictive modeling, pattern recognition, based on the data, a model throws as to what should be the pattern and whether the pattern is being followed or not. The machine itself becomes smart, and then the machine throws the exception. All these technique helps in detecting the fraud. Next, we have something called as prevention technique. Now, if we discuss prevention technique, we in prevention, it is very important that all the detection tools are deployed and used by the company. In prevention technique, it is very important that all the detection tools are used by the company, because the fear of detection of fraud is the strongest motivation for an employee that he will be caught. That is strongest deterrence, rather, not motivation is not a correct word. That is the strongest deterrence, that he will be caught. So fear of detection is the strongest deterrence. That can be achieved by deploying all the technique that we discussed in the previous slide. Then comes the whistleblower program. There has to be robust whistleblower program where employees or staff or vendors, that is all stakeholders, are encouraged to report what they find as a subnormal, non-normal behavior by the person. Then cross-function collaboration, that is the HR collaborating with the finance, the production collaborating with the finance, the stores collaborating with HR. So this cross-function collaboration also helps in prevention of fraud. Next comes regular training of employees, regular training of customers, regular training of the top brass, regular training of all the stakeholders. This is also a prevention technique. And last is implementation of artificial intelligence and certain innovative techniques like continuous control monitoring, where the evaluation of the transaction happens in real time. That is called as continuous control monitoring. Let us move ahead. Now, preparing of report. As I said, preparing of report is a crucial part in the forensic engagement. Now, any report, any report in my workshops, which I have conducted in hundreds of number, I always say that whenever you start drafting a report, please presume that this report will be litigated and disputed in court of law. Please start the report with this presumption that this report will be disputed and litigate. It will be a subject matter of dispute. Start writing every sentence and please read every word before you put it in the final, before you finalize the report. Again, the report has to be crisp, clear, and concise. It cannot be volumes and volumes of report which is not making a lot of sense. It has to be crisp. It has to, the report has to be tied with the scope, with the objectives, with the deliverables in the engagement letter. In the engagement letter, we'll be having the scope, we'll be having the deliverables. This report has to be tied with that. The assumptions, methodology, the facts, whatever we have assumed, whatever techniques we have used, whatever tools we have used, that has to be specified in the reports. Please understand, when you go to defend your report, when you go to defend your report, when you go to testify in a court of law, it is your report which will be coming to your rescue. No other documents, no other documents you can carry with you in the court except for your report, of course, some reference material. So the drafting of report is very important. Annexures, exhibit, evidences, documents relied upon, or relied upon documents as they are called, they have to be clearly marked, presented, and the chain of custody has to be demonstrated that a chain of custody has been maintained for these documents. Let us move next. I follow a maxim in all my investigation, and you can see what I follow. I have a very strong feeling that in a forensic engagement, we have to write whatever we do and we have to do whatever we write. Please follow this to the T, because if this is not followed, it will be very difficult to defend the report in court of law. Okay, so write what you do and do what you write. Testifying, as I was telling, this is again an important portion in the forensic sphere called as testifying. Now, what do we mean by testifying? By testifying, we mean that the professional has to go to a adjudicating authority, be it court, be it tribunal, be it arbitration panel. The professional has to go there and he has to defend or explain the report. So the testification has to be absolutely professional. It has to be absolutely clear. The professional has to confirm or refute the professional has to confirm or refute the evidence. That is, either the evidence has to be inculpatory or exculpatory, or sort of not making opinion. So prove, disprove, not prove. All these terminology comes into play. And then the testification. While testifying, the professional should understand that he has to address the court, and he is witness of the court, and not he is not supposed to advocate his client. He is not supposed to speak only for his client. It has to be a statement of fact and truth. You can never lie, otherwise you land into big soup. Okay. And then the professional has to use the language as simple as possible. It's like a teacher. You are trying to explain a non-professional, a person with or without a background of accounting. You're trying to explain a complex case. So care should be taken that the explanation is lucid, simple, so that a opinion can be made by the judges. Now, this is for a case that I wanted to discuss very quickly. I see, we are already 5:50, so 10 minutes. So what I'll do for the next 10 minutes, we'll be discussing this, rather 5-7 minutes, we'll be discussing this case. And then if we have any questions, we can take those questions. The only question that I got in the chat box is that can we get this PPT? And I'm sure this has already been explained by the host. While the introduction, he said that the PPT will be shared with all of you. So here is the case. The case pertains to an investigation which we did long back. I mean, when the before the era of uh, technology and AI. So we did an investigation for an EPC contractor, wherein the project was close to the tune of 200 crores. This we did for an EPC contractor uh, based out of here in Ahmedabad. This we did for someone. And this is the case which I would like to uh, discuss. So here in the EPC contract investigation, the let me first discuss the allegation and the requirement. The team at the site office, the team at the site office, they claimed that they are saving a lot of steel. They are saving a lot of the most important and crucial element. They are saving that, and then they expected a incentive. Now, when I tried to understand what is the definition of saving, how they are saving, so there's something called as theoretical consumption. So based on the size and nature of the project, there's a calculation that probably say 100 tons of steel will be spent in this particular project. That is theoretically done. But while doing the actual work, the there is some sort of there is some sort of manipulation or some sort of saving which is done, whereby the actual consumption is less than what was proposed or what was planned. Now, based on that savings, the team at the site office was expecting an incentive, but then the directors were not convinced, and they thought that something wrong may be happening. So our mandate was to check whether there is actual saving or not. So that was the mandate. We went ahead, and then steel being the 70-80% of the cost, we started with that. Now we couldn't understand what is the amount of steel that has been used and what is the amount of steel that is left. And when the concrete structure was already poured, how are we supposed to measure the steel? So this being a new project, entire purchases was the stock. So what we did, we calculated this, we checked the purchases, and then we reduced the closing stock. Now, how are we supposed to take the closing stock of steel? It was not possible to lift all the steel, go to a weighing scale, take them to a weighing scale, and then getting a report. So in this case, what we did, we started taking linear measurement of the steel. We started taking linear measurement of the steel. Based on this linear measurement, and we did a cross section. That is, we took a 1 foot cross section of say 6 centimeter, 8 centimeter, 18 centimeter, 12, 6 mm, 12 mm, 18 mm dia steel. We took a cross section, and based on that weight, we extrapolated the weight of the closing stock. That weight we reduced from the purchases, and then we got the consumption. This is how we calculated steel. Then the engineering team at the contractor site office was telling that they have a saving of steel, they have a saving of cement, and they have a saving of sand and black trap as well. All the quantity that was to be used, they said they were saving everything. Now, please understand, if we take a 1 cubic centimeter of concrete block, 1 cubic centimeter of concrete block, it has a formula, that is 1 unit of cement, 3 units of sand, and 1 unit of probably black trap. That is how the concrete is poured. Okay. Now, if they are telling that they have saved all the three items which is used for constructing 1 cubic meter of concrete, it is absolutely not possible. The theory of impossibility says that all three material cannot be saved to create 1 cubic meter. Because if everything is saved, then even the block that was created, that cannot be 1 cubic meter. So at the best, what has happened? They have just replaced the steel with the they've just replaced the cement with the sand. So it is material rate variance or material mix variance, that is high cost material has been replaced by a low cost material. In this case, cement is replaced by sand. So at the best, if there is some saving of cement, there has to be excess consumption of sand. When we explained this with logic, the engineering team had to ultimately agree. And then we started calculating the cement, we started calculating the sand based on the measurement book, based on the measurement taken. We started doing all this calculation. So based on this, we found that there was definitely saving in the cement. Of course, not to the extent that they were claiming. Okay. There was excess consumption of sand. It is but obvious. If cement is saved, sand has to be there. There was some very small saving in the steel. However, due to wastage of steel, which was not part of the measurement book, it gave false report of the savings of steel. Total savings as presented by site office was reduced by 109% due to above adjustment. So 109% reduction in the amount of saving. So essentially they had wasted 9% and they were telling that we have saved 109%. That was done and found out. This is how that case was unraveled, and that is how the case was we gave a report. Okay. Next is, when conviction and determination prevents us from exploring alternative option, we limit our potential for thinking critically. Critical thinking exercise is an essence of the forensic investigation. You have to think differently. If same old thinking is applied on same old data set, it will be giving same old results. So we have to think different. We have to present different to get different set of results. With this, I complete my presentation, but I do see we have a few questions. Let me try to answer them. Sure. I have. Can you suggest any premium certification degree which can be undertaken by working professional for forensic accounting? See, I'll tell you, while a professional certification or degree helps you stand out, it really doesn't gives a guaranteed employment. So if you are a chartered accountant, the first course that I would suggest is to go for the forensic accounting and fraud detection course conducted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. If you're a non-chartered accountant, then there are many institutes which do give degrees and certificates in forensic accounting. The Forensic University, where I am associated with National Forensic Sciences University, it's an institute of national importance that also gives certain certification. There are certain certifications in open source. The Certified Fraud Examiner is a course. There are other courses as well, which you can do for forensic accounting. I hope I have answered your question. Yeah. So there are again few comments in the chat that I have seen. For a non-CA person but having masters in accounting, is there is a certificate course by which anyone can pursue career in this sector? I have already told that there's MBA Forensic Accounting being conducted by the National Forensic Sciences University, and because you have specified that you are a not a chartered accountant, so CFE is also a course which you can do. There are also multiple courses which are being offered by a lot of universities, lot of colleges, which you can try doing that. Please search on the internet and then you will be getting the result. Yeah, the PPT will be shared, that I've already told. And what tools can be used for email reviews apart from relativity? See, I'll tell you, the tools totally depend on the tools totally depend on the type of engagement that you're doing, the type of the data that you're expecting. So relativity is a good tool. You can definitely use that. The main concept is to use the keywords in the email. So you can use any tool to extract the email. You can use another set of tools where they have their own set of keywords. You can define your keywords based on the investigation that you're doing, and you can use that for emails. Yeah, so I understand we are at the very end of the question. Yeah, National Forensic Science University is very much in India. They have 10 campuses, one overseas, 9 of them in India. The number is growing. I'm not sure whether they have only 10. Probably it may have increased by a couple of them. So I understand that is all from my that is all from my side, and I have tried to answer all the questions that I have. Any questions if you have? I had shared my coordinates, my contacts. I had already shared. If you want, I can do that once more. Please feel free to reach out on that. And I don't know whether I will be able to answer more questions. Yeah, I have 2 questions which I have already done. There's something in the chat box which said forensic accounting used for corruption in government employee. I don't understand if there's a question. Good evening, forensic accounting used for corruption government employee. Yeah, it is definitely used. It is used. At least it is used in Gujarat where I belong to. Okay. So I've shared my contact on the screen. Thank you so much, all of you.